Yo, are we live? I think we're live. Hello. How is everyone doing? It's nice to see everyone here. Hope everyone's had a good day so far. Hey Elizabeth, Stacey, Caroline. What's good, Glenn? How's it going? Hello everybody. Fucking, let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb. For fuck's sake. Hey, Christoph. Hey man. Why are you trading this pair? Because it's similar to GJ. Euro USD is bullish, I think, or bearish. It's bearish. Hey Gustavo. What's with Euro USD and GBP USD? I'm going to be breaking that down in just a sec. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen this happen. I think this has happened to EU as well, and especially on GU. We've had a complete meltdown. I'm going to be breaking this down. It's not just news. We went over this in the private live stream. It's not just news. It's not just this that's affected it. There's something bigger than that that's happened in the UK. I'm going to be breaking that down for you in just a second. We're going to make sure everyone is here before we go over that so no one misses it. So like up the stream if you haven't already. You know, helps me, helps the algorithm. If you think this is valuable, you know, if you think this is worth other people seeing, just like up the stream. It takes like 2 seconds. But, you know, for those in the Discord, we do have a big announcement on the way. And I just want to talk about that really quickly whilst we wait for everyone to show up here. Good afternoon, Terry. So, obviously we're going to cover what's happened in the UK in just a sec. But I want to talk about something. So, obviously I've said I've got something in the works that I've been working on for a little bit and I'm finally ready to kind of release this. But I just want to explain what it is really quickly. So, this is stuff I've never taught before. This isn't more technicals. It's not teaching you about AMD. It's not teaching you about IFVGs because I've got enough videos out there showing you how to do that. I've done enough live lectures, enough streams for you to understand what IFVGs and AMD are, right? But a few weeks ago, I basically sat down here with a piece of paper with ChatGPT and just basically sat here and thought through my entire thought process on the charts because the stuff I use on a daily basis is the stuff you need to know, right? You don't need to know stuff I don't use. There's no point me showing you things I don't use, right? Which I don't do anyway, but I figured there's probably things I haven't shown you and direct stuff about how I use tools, how I see the charts. So this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what strategy you use at all because this is more about what you see on the charts, how you see it. Like I sat down and thought about what I see and what I look at the very first time I open a chart. So when I open a blank chart, I looked at the very first thing I see. I thought about the very first thing I look at and what I do. When I look at a trade setup, I wrote down the very first things that I thought of when I seen it and what I looked for and acknowledged and ignored and what a beautiful setup looks like for me. All that kind of stuff. Like I've never shared this before. I've never consciously acknowledged this before myself even. This is just stuff that's in my subconscious that I haven't even realised up until recently. So that kind of explains the month off that we took as well. Like I had a lot of self-reflecting, right? And I've come up with a lot of things and I've expanded on those things. So what I'm going to be sharing is that kind of stuff, right? Stuff I haven't shared before, stuff that I haven't taught before. You can't go onto a YouTube video and find this. This is the stuff you don't search up, right? Because in order to search things up, you've kind of already got to know them. You've got to know what to search up. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you didn't know IFEGs existed, you couldn't search up the best way to use IFEGs. It's that kind of thing. Like, it's nothing to do with the strategy. It doesn't matter what strategy you use, this will benefit you because I'm giving you the exact thought process I go through on a daily basis. So I've had a lot of that, sitting down, thinking, writing down, expanding on it, chart diagrams and all that shit, which I will be sharing as well. But more importantly, it's stuff I've never taught before. So make sure you stay tuned for that. But I think everyone's here now. So like up the stream, we're going to be covering exactly why GJ, GU, all these different pairs have just shot off in one direction out of nowhere. I'm going to show you exactly what's happened here. And then from that, we're going to look at some setups that we've seen, right? I think we were looking at Euro JPY, which still could be in the works, although we have inversed the 15 now, so it's probably going to be invalid. But more importantly, let's have a look. Let's have a look at why GJ shot down. So if you look on GJ, you can see at about 10 to 1, this morning we just shot straight down. On Euro JPY, on Euro GBP, sorry, we just shot straight up at 10 to 1. GU shot down, GCAD shot down, Euro CAD, USD CAD, USD Swiss franc, all these other pairs are just kind of going sideways. Euro USD obviously had a big push, but more importantly, we're focusing on all these GBP pairs, right? Because something's happened, which we're going to go over right now. So like up the stream if you haven't already, but more importantly, if we go over to financial juice, right? This is kind of what's happened. So let me just pull up the website we were on. So what's happened here is basically in the UK we have obviously like the Houses of Parliament and stuff like that, and we have Labour, we have the government, we have Labour, and we have the Conservatives, right? So basically, this is literally why we've shot down. So some woman who is the Chancellor, right, was tearful, was crying. What's the latest you're hearing about? Like if we look at this, you can see she was crying here. You can see tears rolling down her cheek if you look right there. See that? Get an instant replay on that. See? So that's why that tier there really is the reason we shot down here. So it's bigger than that, obviously. Everyone was asking themselves, why was she crying? Was it something to do with a recent bill that she'd kind of had proposed, got denied, or some messing around with that? Then there was also, on the other side, is she going to be getting fired? Is she going to be getting sacked? Is she going to be resigning? Is she going to be leaving her job? Which has obviously shot a lot of panic into people. So that one tier there is what's kind of shot all of this in one direction, right? And I said this to my course members. I said this in the private Discord. It doesn't matter. Like I do not care that she's cried. I honestly do not care, right? But just because I don't care doesn't mean the markets don't care either, right? Because the market is the majority of people. So if most of the people, if the big banks, if they care, if they're looking at this like quite seriously, regardless of our personal opinions on it, we need to do the exact same thing, because our job is to like the best analogy I've seen is like, the little like fish that cling onto a whale. So you have like a whale swim through the sea and like little fish and stuff cling onto it and just kind of like catch a ride next to it. That's basically what we are like. We're like the little fishies that are like, following the whale. So we don't care where the whale's going, right? Or why it wants to go in that direction. We don't care why the whale is moving in that direction. We just know that's where it's going. That's where we need to go as well. So even though we don't care, it sounds so stupid to say that the markets have crashed because some woman was crying, right? Obviously that's a very simple way to say it, but That's basically what's happened. I don't care. I don't care about anyone else's opinion other than the banks, which do care clearly. So because they care, we need to care. And that's the thought process you want to go with this. So unfortunately, they do care. But more importantly, now that we've had a big move, can anyone tell me what's going to happen next? I've said this quite a lot. Let's make this a little bit more engaging. Someone tell me what's going to happen next after a big move. What happens after a big move naturally? Tell me. I'll give you a clue. It's not a retracement. But someone tell me what happens after that. Sideways, consolidate, chop, accumulation. Someone said retracement. Fill it all back. That is not necessarily true. VF trades, most of the time we'll just get a 50% retracement at best. Sometimes we can get a V-shaped correction though. Sideways, yep. Accumulation, accumulate sideways. Exactly. That is what's supposed to happen next, right? So after a big move, we consolidate. After a consolidation, we will have a big move. Now, obviously, I don't think everyone was anticipating this, but it's still natural, right? But now, again, another question. What if we started doing here? What if we started doing here? After the big move, what have we started to do? Someone tell me. What have we started to do since we've started having a big move? Manipulate, very close. Accumulation. Man up. Yeah, so we accumulate, right? Pretty straightforward. That's what we started to do. So after a big move, we will accumulate, right? We've had a big move and now we've started to accumulate, okay? Accumulate, then manipulate, exactly. So now we've started to accumulate. We just want to accumulate a little bit more. But now what we can do, because we've got a potential setup on the way, right? That's the step-by-step. You don't want to look for the bias and then the setup because you'll just burn yourself out, especially when you're looking at a bunch of different pairs. We look for the setup, okay? We'll start accumulating. So now let's look for our bias. So what direction do we want to be trading in today, right? So let's just break this down step by step. So we have the first fair value gap over here, which hasn't been inversed yet. Obviously we're down here all the way, probably going to disrespect it, but we haven't closed yet. We've still got 7 hours left on this candle. So we're still open. We could still pop all the way back up like we did over here, right? So technically we're still bullish, right? Then there's this fair value gap here, which has done the same thing too, but technically we're still bullish until we close. Then there's this one here as well, which we've tapped into and clearly trying to respect right now, which is also showing us we're bullish, right? So we're quite bullish on the daily, even like we've had a massive meltdown, but on the technicals, based on the technicals, we're bullish. On the 4 hour as well, if we get rid of all these imbalances, we've also took out these lows right here, right? Which means we need a retracement back up, okay? Like we did over here. You know, we did this time and time again over here. So we took out these lows to the left-hand side, right? Came back into this fair value gap, which we're respecting, then continued down, took out all these lows over here, came back into this fair value gap right here, had a technical close, right? Then came straight back down, took out these lows again. So we're expecting the exact same thing to happen that happened before. We go back up. So bullish on the daily, bullish on the 4 hour, bullish on the 1 hour as well, because it's the exact same situation. We just had a complete meltdown here. So bullish bias, right? As Gustavo said, the 15-minute still needs to kind of accumulate. But what we would want to see if we're going to take a trade, the first thing is a manipulation down, right? That's the very first thing. Take out these lows again, and then distribute up. But in terms of a distribution target, because obviously we need a target, the best thing we could do is target this 1 hour fair value gap here. And that makes the most sense to me, because you look at the daily, there's obviously nothing to target. The 4 hour, we still got 3 hours left. And I think if we're going to get this set up, it won't be in 3 hours and 15 minutes. It will be pretty soon. So we use the 1 hour as a target, right? Which is this fair value gap. We've got 15 minutes left on this 1 hour. So probability tells me, you know, we're going to get this fair value gap formed. So we can just use that as the target, right? So then we go down to the 5 minute, right? And that's our full take profit target. So we'd want an entry like around here at least. Stops below here, take profit up here, right? Then on the way to that, if we use the 15 minute, so obviously a fair value gap here, which needs mitigating, but that's like the exact same line as the 1 hour. So that's irrelevant. The 30 minute is like near enough the exact same. So I think we've got a pretty clean road to our full take profit if we were to take this trade, right? So all we need to see now is a manipulation down, right? A fair value gap formed in that manipulation and then inversed relatively quickly, preferably in one candle. And then we take the entry there, stops below the low we would have formed, take profit at this 1 hour fair value gap, right? Then we could even just target the other side of the accumulation if we wanted to. Like you don't have to be like really greedy with it, but I mean, we could take partials here or move to break even and then just let the rest run, you know, and then maybe even take partials up here. But this is something we're going to do. It's either going to be here as a full TP or up here. Depends on where our stop loss will be and the risk to reward ratio we're going for. Very good question, bro. I really want to know. But I mean, yeah, that is what we're going to be looking for today, guys. That is what we're going to be looking for. There is Euro JPY as well, but that didn't play out. We basically looked for the same thing to happen, just we were bearish instead of bullish. So, you know, we wanted to see this happen, right? Now, obviously, we didn't get a valid entry, so it's not like we got the entry and it just didn't play out. We haven't even got the entry, so it's not something we could have took here. So this is completely invalid now, because even if we do get this IFEG on the 5 minute, we've got one right here on the 15, and we haven't took the highs out yet, so we're still bullish on that. We still need to come up to there. Right, and now this is what it is. So now that we've got a setup on GJ potentially on the way, we just go and look at something else to keep our eyes on. So like, you know, look for something else that's consolidating, and then do the same thing to that and just analyze that, which there doesn't seem to be anything consolidating. So I think we are just going to stick with GJ right now. I'm pretty happy for us to come down here in the next few candles. I'm pretty happy to call that a nice little accumulation there. What is with NQ? The reason we've gone up on NQ, it looks like it could just be another reaction to news. But I mean, what's the bias on it? It is technically bullish anyway. You would be bullish anyway. Even though it hasn't mitigated that daily, it is respecting this one that it formed right here. See, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. So you know, on like GJ, I think if we go to the daily on GJ, you see how we're technically disrespecting all these fair value gaps here, right? Even though we haven't closed yet. Look at NQ. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, right? So a few hours ago, we were down here, right? We were disrespecting it, but we hadn't closed yet. We hadn't inversed it properly with the close. So it's still technically respecting it, and look what's happened. So that's bullish. The 4 hours bullish. The 1 hour bullish as well, took these lows. So it is supposed to be bullish. But let's see what happens with GJ now. You know, this is pretty much what we want to see. Also, for the trade that was took yesterday, I think we took a trade on Euro JPY yesterday, didn't we? I think it was based off of... Did we take one yesterday? Oh yeah, it was this, wasn't it? So this trade we took yesterday, just to cover that, I closed this break even in the Discord. You know, I said that I'm closing break even. Some people decided to hold this, but I decided to close at break even because, and I say this a lot, and it is pretty stupid to say because it's common knowledge really, but I don't really like to see price go sideways after my entry. If it goes sideways after your entry, it's not really a good trade, right? Which is obvious, you know what I mean? It's common knowledge. I don't think there's anyone in the world who would want to see price go sideways once they enter the trade, but you know, that's what puts me off sometimes. So I didn't like that, and I was like, yeah, I'm closing at break even. Plus also, it wasn't like an A+ setup anyway, because we got the AMD, right? And we got the IFEG, but the difference was the AMD and IFEGs were on different time frames. We got an IFEG on the 15 and AMD on the 5, which I don't like. But my thought process was, well, it's a 15-minute IFEG, so technically it should play out. Like usually if it's a 15-minute AMD with a 5-minute IFEG, we wouldn't take that, but it was kind of the other way around. So I was like, why not? Let's see what happens. And then it just went sideways. I was like, nope, that's not me. Thanks. So we took that, but closed break even there with the private Discord. I did say to join the Discord if you want to learn to manage. So if you took the loss on that one, that's unfortunate. But you just got to know when to go break even. But let's see what happens here. You know, I'm liking this setup. Obviously, I prefer to trade GJ anyway, but I mean, I'm liking this accumulation. It was due after such a rapid drop. But this is living proof of I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I mean, if anyone's got any questions for me, any trading questions, whilst we wait for this setup, ask away. If there's a pair you want me to look at, ask away. If you have any specific questions about tools you don't understand, I'm on the charts. I'm here, ready to show you. So ask a few questions if you've got any. Obviously, only good questions, not just shitty ones. How to know if a fair value gap is valid or not? There's a few ways, you know. So the first thing I would say is if we're consolidating, it's probably not valid. There's two types of valid, right? There's valid fair value gaps and then there's valid IFEGs. A valid fair value gap, no one really knows if we're going to respect it or not until it happens, right? That's why we use IFVGs, and that's why we don't enter in randomly. So no one really knows if we're going to respect it or not until it kind of happens already. So you don't really know if it's valid or not until it happens, right? But an invalid fair value gap, in my eyes, would be one that is inversed, right? Or one that we respect but don't really go anywhere from, or one that we just completely ignore and just consolidate through, right? So there's a few ways. So obviously an invalid fair value gap would be one from like weeks ago, right? Like, where's a good example? Like this fair value gap right here. I think I'm just going to zoom in a sec. So this imbalance right here that we formed, right? Obviously it was already mitigated, so there's that too. We came in and mitigated that. But there's also, if it's from a while ago, it's not going to be, as respected, right? So that's rule number one, is the more recent the fair value gaps, the more valid they are, right? The less of them is another one that most people don't tell you, is the less fair value gaps there are, the stronger the one that there is, if that makes sense. So if there's less fair value gaps, if you have a bunch of different imbalances, it's a bit of confusion. But if there's just one clear imbalance right there for you to target, that's a pretty valid fair value gap as well. So you can see that here, right? See both examples here even. So see how this was in the most recent move? It was in the move up. We retraced to it, respected it, and continued up. Obviously, you don't know if we're going to respect it or not until it kind of already happens. But in terms of this signal, so when you would see it respecting it, if that's a strong signal or not, would come from the fact of, or to come from how valid it is, if it's mitigated or not, if it's in a consolidation or not, and that kind of thing. So there's a few different things there. Like, the more recent it's formed, if it's mitigated, right? If there's a lot of them, then it's get pretty confusing. You don't really know which one, so they're all kind of lower probability, therefore. If there's just one, you know which one is going to be respected, if any, and it's pretty straightforward from there. There is also ones formed inside a consolidation. Is there one here? Yes, so there's a fair value gap formed here. Obviously, we showed signs we were going to respect it, but then just kind of shot up and then just came straight back down. This is completely invalid. So any fair value gap or any IFVG that's formed inside a consolidation is low probability, is invalid. But yeah, there's a few examples. I think if we go to the daily on here, you can see an example of what I've just been talking about. Like, see how there's three imbalances here? You don't know which one's going to be the most probable, but you target the nearest one. But you can see we've inversed this one technically, we've inversed this one technically. Obviously you have to wait for the close to see that, but you don't know which one we're going to bounce up off of. Like, it was this one here. That is just a game of probabilities more than anything. So in terms of valid fair value gaps, again, you don't know what's going to happen to it until it already happens. You just react to it. But the ones that you can kind of trust more when we're showing signs of it respecting it are the more recent ones, like this, for example, and when there's less of them as well. And when we're consolidating, you can't really trust the IFVG or the fair value gap. Hence why most of the time I look for the IFVG to form outside of the fair value gap, rather than outside of the accumulation, rather than inside the accumulation. There we go, I've got another question here. How to get in a clear mind state to start going into the chart in the morning? Like, how should I clear my head to determine my bias? It depends on how many things you trade. To clear your mind, to just, I can give you all these mad health tips, like, meditate for half an hour or shit like that. What I would say is just make sure you've got a relatively alright diet and you're getting enough sleep. It's pretty straightforward. You don't need to do any mad fancy stuff like meditating or self-reflection or self-journaling or, gratification journaling or, what's the other one? you know, when you're thinking about your goals and stuff, you know, you don't need to do any of that fancy stuff. It's simple. Just eat well and sleep well, and you'll wake up in the morning feeling refreshed. Obviously, if you can have a morning shower, have a morning shower. They help me so much. I do not feel myself until I've had my morning shower, because for the past 3 years, no days off, near enough, I have like a cold shower for like a minute at the end of my normal shower, which gives me that, I don't feel normal unless I've had that, and that's what gives me that refreshed feel. Like, if I was to come on stream and not had a shower beforehand, I wouldn't be myself. I'd just feel crap. So eat well, sleep well, and maybe shower in the morning. That's what helps me. But it's not like some mad fancy guide. Like, I'm not going to give you some mad fancy trick that no one's ever told you before that's going to solve all your problems. You've just got to have basic health sorted, which is eating and sleeping relatively well. What do I need to look for? What do I need to look for? I want an entry confirmation. For entry confirmation, we just need 3 of them. Whatever your strategy is, you just need like 3 really. For me, I want a higher time frame form of liquidity, whether it's a fair value gap or a high or a low, being took, respected. A lower time frame inversion correlating with the higher time frame. So like for this, for example, we're respecting a daily bullish fair value gap. I'd want to inverse a 5-minute bearish fair value gap, and also sweep lows. So I want a liquidity sweep, IFVG and AMD on the time frame of my entry, and I also want a higher time frame fair value gap being respected, or a liquidity sweep, or both, like this. And then you want an IFVG outside the accumulation to form, and you want to inverse the fair value gap with preferably a displacement candle, at most like 6 or 7 candles. You don't want to tiptoe through it. What you can get sometimes is like a push down and just go sideways a little bit and then push up. That's better than just doing this. But yeah, that, you know. Please, what is the entry price? It says it there for you, but we don't know the entry price yet because it could change. But yeah, it looks like we're going to be getting this set up soon, so like up the stream if you're going to be taking this trade with me. Looks like we're going to be getting this anytime now. Excuse me. Like this, for example, this could be alright, but most of the time I'd want to see the fair value gap form outside it. Like, I'd rather it be down here, which is annoying, but I mean, it's a small contradiction. Should I trade NQ and ES in London session? No. Don't trade NQ and ES in London session. That doesn't make any sense. One of the reasons I stick to Forex rather than going to futures is there's 2 reasons really. One, I don't need to because I'm not in the US. And 2, I don't really want to give up my London session. So, that's more fair value in the accumulation. Oh, the small one above it here. Yeah, we'd obviously need to inverse both of those. Either way. Struggle for the second reason. That was the original reason that I was gonna say. It was just, I seen that comment about the small fair value gap and I just didn't want to get distracted. I wanted to finish what I was trying to say. But yeah, it is like, I don't want to be restricted to that because sometimes I take a trade in the morning and it's just messy, but it is a bit of both. It is a bit of both. Like, I don't need to. I think most people only trade NQ because they're in the US, and people in my position would only trade NQ because the best audience would be from the US. Do you know what I'm saying? 883504. Sorry, my bad, no worries. Right, so we could take this, but the entry, look at the difference in the entry. Like, that's taken that from a 4R to a 1.6R. Although the stop loss does change alongside it. Then that's only given us here a 0.7 rather than a 1.6. But it has done its job, most of it, you know, from the most of it. That little fair value gap here is annoying though. Everything else is starting to consolidate now. So it looks like this is going to be the fair value gap that we form. Hopefully we don't invalidate it and not get an entry at all. Fuck's sake. Oh. Looks, yep, there we go. That's invalidated that. What about this small one here? We could technically use this one. Well, that's well and truly deep inside the accumulation. Alright, we could still form one, like it's still in the picture, like we could still form a fair value gap. We have swept liquidity now though. But what's cool, right, what's pretty cool is you guys have got to see like from when we started accumulating up until like this playing out, right, which is pretty cool. So think of it of like parts of the entry. Like there's 5 things, I think it's 5 things that need to happen here. We need to accumulate, manipulate, sweep liquidity, form a fair value gap, and then inverse it in like 1 or 2 candles. So what's that like? I think that's 5, isn't it? Accumulate, manipulate, form a fair value gap, sweep liquidity, and inverse it. 6 if you count the higher time frames. But you've seen all that, you've seen the accumulation, the manipulation, you've seen the manipulation form a fair value gap, and you've seen the manipulation sweep liquidity. But we just needed to form a better imbalance. At least we've mitigated this now, so we don't need to take an entry up here. If we do end up taking an entry, it could be back to, you know, down here, which gives us a better risk to reward ratio for this. So there is that, at least, right? But, you know, at least you guys have got to see the step by step right? That's what we are. That's what we're about here. Like, you get to see everything, and sometimes you get to see the entry, right? And you get to see it play out. Some other times we might not get the entry, like maybe right now even. So that's pretty cool. So I think best case right now, we could completely melt back down with this current 5 minute candle, which has only been open for 1 minute. So we have 4 minutes left on this. So we could still really see a push down, then leave a gap behind, right? And then on the next candle, we just need to chill out, and then we could inverse that and then take a trade that looks something like this, and probably even get a better risk to reward ratio there, and end up getting a 2R. That'd be pretty nice, and I'd be pretty happy just to target there, to be honest with you. But, you know, again, it's asking for a little bit. But if we see a meltdown on this candle, that's the best possible scenario that could happen now, or even in the next one, to be fair. But something like this is the best case, I think, for us right now. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we could be getting this entry pretty soon. We've still got 2.5 minutes. We are literally halfway through this 5 minute candle. So we still could flip, you never know. We could still flip. Is anyone seeing any other setups though, by the way? Like, is anyone seeing anything else potentially? Any accumulations? I think Euro GBP is accumulating again, right? Which is pretty good. I guess we can keep our eyes on this. Euro JPY, GU is not really accumulating. Euro CAD is. This probably will look better on the 15. Yep. USD CAD, USD Swiss franc. Not much else, I don't think. Pretty much everything is accumulating, but there's no clean ones. There is a nice one here on CAD Swiss franc, but that's a bit of a weird thing to trade. Gold. Okay, so Euro GBP, what's the bias on this? I think it's bearish, right? Obviously we've had a massive day today because of that woman crying, which has shot everything up. So that's bearish. The 4 hours bearish as well. You know, the 1 hour bearish again. I think this would be the target if we were to take a trade. This makes sense to be a clear target, right? The 15, the 5, right? So, I mean, we could ask for something like this. I'd want a bit more of a stronger accumulation. This looks more like a retracement to me right now. I want to see us probably come back inside here and close in here and then just go back down or something. But I mean, we can cross that bridge when we get to it. If we get the IFEG, we can then properly validate, you know, the trade. But it would be something like this, right? Maybe if we form the fair value up here instead, we target here, stop loss above here, full TP down here. Similar story to GJ, which is chilling. The next candle hopefully could push down, but we're still on the table. You know, still could potentially be taking this setup. So we'll see how that goes. Euro GBP is a potential setup as well. What was the other one? CAD Swiss franc, was it? I mean, this is inside a 5 minute right now. What's the bias? Bullish. Daily's bullish. Just took these lows. Needs to retrace. 4 hour. Took these lows. It's the 4 hours bearish. This is a mixed bias on a pair that we don't really ever trade. So I'm just going to completely ignore that. I think GJ and Euro GBP are our best bets at the moment. Right, okay, so we seem to be pushing down here, which is good for us because we could be forming this fair value gap right now. Now with the fair value gap, we don't want to push down too much because if the fair value gap's too big, we would then need a massive move to, and then it just becomes ugly and annoying. So, IFG, on which time frames do you rely upon the most? The 5 minute, right? That's the one I trade the most. Now, if we've got multiple fair value gaps on different time frames, you'd want to inverse all of them. So, for example, the fair value gap we're about to form right now, this one potentially, right? You'd want to, and if this was one on the 15, on the 30 minute, on the 1 hour, we'd want to inverse all of them, right? So it's just the entry time frame, which is the 5 minute for me. Unless there's multiple layered over each other, then I'd want to inverse the one on the highest time frame. Do you trade Bitcoin? I do trade Bitcoin if there's a setup. We were looking at one today actually on the private stream. We were looking at a setup which was this right here with this fair value gap, but we didn't inverse it, so we didn't take the trade. And there was also something else about like the 1 hour fair value gap over here. Bitcoin setup, I'm not seeing anything on Bitcoin. I mean, we could inverse this and continue down, but I mean, we haven't really. I don't like this. I'm pretty happy just waiting for this one. So halfway through this 5 now. This is also a 15-minute candle. So we could also end up with a 15-minute fair value gap here. Hopefully not. But let's see how this candle closes. We want a nice gap between this candle's close and the previous candle's bottom wick. Doesn't look like we're going to get this gap here. Let's see, we still got a minute left. You know, we still got like, what, 25% of the whole thing left. Want a decent push here. Last minute. Let's see what it gives us. Final 30 seconds. $15 seconds. Let's see what it gives us. Come on. 10, 5, 3, 2, 1. Fuck, we had a nice little jump up there. No bottom wick on the 5. Let's flip and make that right now. There we go. As I was talking, it happened. I spoke it into reality. Let's try and hold this in balance. Let's try and hold it. Come on. Hold the line. All we want is this 5-minute candle to chill the fuck out. We need it to chill. And there we go. It's invalidated. Great. Yep, there we are. Not even. Okay, this is just, I think this is not the best to do now. I don't think this is worth doing. Euro GBP. Okay, this is our next little setup here. We do have 2 fair value gaps though. So the higher we go, the lower the risk to reward ratio will be from now on. But something like this could be, you know, potentially taken. Right? Fair value gap on the Freeman. I don't trade the Freeman, but oh yeah, I see that. This could be the second setup, right? You know, plan B. We got so close to having the entry. Would you say the 5-minute fair value gap has done its job now? This one. This small one here, Glenn. Yeah, I would. It's done its job. Because it came into it, respected it, which means it needs to go to the next form of liquidity, which was this high, which it's done now. Bro, gold. We'll look at gold in just a sec. We could be potentially getting an entry on this if we do have a big gap down. But still, it just gets less and less probable, this trade, as it goes on. This is pushing up as well. Let's have a quick look at gold. No, gold's not got anything. Buy gold. Nah. If you didn't get an ICT on the 5-min, but you did on the 15, would you take it on GBPJPY? No, not really. We tried that yesterday. I've never really tried that before. We tried it yesterday on Euro JPY, and it didn't really go anywhere. So no, I'm just gonna stick to the plan fully. So no, it wouldn't be A+. It would probably be like a B or an A if you're trying to grade it. You know, not the best. So I wouldn't take it, to be honest, because right now I'm not in the position to take those kind of trades. I'm not like fiending for it, you know. So I wouldn't take it. So Euro GBP, not giving us anything. Is there any other pairs? Euro CAD. Euro CAD, did we look at this before, did we? It's technically alright. better than taking a crap trade and not losing? It is definitely better than taking a crap trade and losing. GU looks alright. GJ again, no fair value gap potentially here at all. Just shooting back up. Doesn't look like we're going to get an entry here. Euro GBP. Again, that's formed what, the third fair value gap here. So again, remember what I said before, it just gets lower and lower probability. We'd have to come all the way down here, inverse all of them, just for it to be a valid entry. And there's probably one in a high time frame. Okay, so unfortunately guys, I think we're going to end the stream here. There's not much, but if you want to be able to, you know, trade this, all you need to do is join the Discord. It's free, so you know, you can join for free. There is a slight paywall just to get a chat, but that's just to block out the scammers and stuff. But anyway, regardless, there's a big announcement I'm going to be making in the next 10 minutes, right, on Discord. So make sure you're in the Discord. You will see the announcement if you join right now. You will see the announcement chat. So keep your eyes peeled for that. This is stuff I've never taught. It's not some new advanced technical thing that you've never learned before that's going to solve all your problems. This is going to be showing you exactly how I break down the charts, how I think, the exact thought process of someone who trades for a living full time, right? The exact thought process, exactly what I see, when I see it, why I see that, why I look for that on a chart, on a trade. And then I'm also going to be breaking down some like advanced things as well, like some things that I've never really taught before, some things I've never taught before, right? I think actually everything in there, hand on heart, I've never taught before. Every single thing in there. You can't find it in the course, the mentorship, the YouTube videos, anything. So if you want to learn that, you want to, you know, think exactly how I think, go and check out the Discord right now. I will see you all there. And that is it. See you in the Discord. Like up the stream and subscribe. I'll see you all tomorrow. But like up the Discord. Go check the Discord. Like the stream. See you there.